3 days remain before TNA heads to the famous arena, the site of many a bloody and hateful war in a city of brotherly love. But there's no love lost here in the final impact before Sunday. Tonight, AJ Styles will find out who his 3 opponents will be when Scott Steiner, Mr. Anderson and Jeff Hardy take on Sting, Mick Foley and Jeff Jarrett in a 6-man tag team match, the winners being the 3 challengers for the TNA World Championship. Kristal has a test for her soon-to-be ex-husband Bobby Lashley. The war of words continue between the band and Beer Money and the Amazing Red, and the Immortal Hulkster himself has an announcement that concerns the Total Nonstop tour under Hogan's regime. This is the final stop before the My Bloody Valentine pay-per-view in Philadelphia, as iMPACT airs from the McKinley Room in Canton, Ohio. Mr. Anderson kicks off iMPACT by telling Ohio and the TV audience that he will be the winner, not only in tonight's 6-man tag team main event, but the winner of the 4-way match in 3 days' time. His teammates Jeff Hardy and Scott Steiner interrupt and demand an explanation for his actions at last week's iMPACT, only to be interrupted by the opposing team. Foley speaking on behalf of Jeff Jarrett and Sting, telling Mr. Anderson and his team that none of them will be the TNA World Champion at My Bloody Valentine, because they won't be able to function as a team tonight. AJ Styles then interrupts proceedings, the TNA World Champion telling all 6 competitors that none of them will be the champion in 3 days, because AJ will remain the TNA World Champion. Hogan and Bischoff come out. Hogan tells the 6 superstars that there will be no physical altercations before the main event. If there is, that team will be disqualified before the match. And the opposing team will be the 3 challengers for the TNA World title in 3 days. Seeing as 6 of the superstars are in competition tonight, it's only fair that AJ Styles should be in competition. So Eric Bischoff books a match for AJ, non-title of course, and that match is now against Homicide. So we open up with a segment rating of 70, I think is a decent start. Storylines going forward as well. Ignorance Arsenal losing heat, but I'll take a 70, that's not bad. So the first match, AJ Styles against Homicide. The TNA World Champion, as ever, more than ready to accept any challenge for him. Even in a non-title match, AJ is as phenomenal as ever, as in a bout that had good heat and decent wrestling, AJ Styles defeated Homicide in 5:42 by pinfall with a Styles Clash. The match was designed to tell a specific story. So this is the mandatory storytelling match that I need. I've done it in the opening match here. I'm going to talk more about the product for this show at the end of this episode. Sort of the product for this company, rather, than the show itself. But segment rating of 70 to open up iMPACT tonight. I'm really happy with that. Good stuff. The beautiful people are backstage with Awesome Kong, ahead of Kong challenging Tara for the TNA Knockouts Championship this Sunday. But tonight, Kong will be a part of the group in an 8-knockout tag team match against Tara, Santana Garrett and the TNA Knockout Tag Team Champions, Sarita and Taylor Wilde. Velvet Sky tells Kong again that even destruction can be beautiful, especially if it's at the expense of Tara and a Knockouts title. The 4 walk off. Segment rating of 42, okay, nothing special here. EY's pacing in the corridor and notices Mick Foley from a distance. Young asks for Foley's advice on his upcoming television title match against Desmond Wolfe, more from a perspective of psychological warfare, not necessarily hardcore warfare. But Foley reminds EY that Foley too is somewhat of a submission expert himself. Eric tells Foley he's all ears, as Foley says he'll catch up with Eric Young later. Summary rating of 59, okay. Despite facing off against the TNA Knockouts Tag Team Champions, Sarita and Taylor Wilde, it's a teamwork of the beautiful people, Lacey and Madison, who are rolling on the floor at ringside, exchanging hands with Wilde and Sarita respectively. Velvet is goading Tara, but he's on the receiving end of a Knockouts Champion's attack. That's irrelevant, however, as what's happening in the ring that matters, as in a bout that didn't have much heat and terrible wrestling. Awesome Kong, Velvet Sky and the beautiful people defeated Santana Garrett, Tara and Wilde and Sarita in 5:10, when Awesome Kong pinned Santana Garrett with a sit-out powerbomb. Segment rating of 39 here. Didn't really expect it to be that low, even considering with who's involved, but okay. There's a commotion backstage as the Amazing Red, Don West, Robert Roode and James Storm on one side are arguing with Sean Waltman, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash on the other. Eric Bischoff interrupts before the arguments turn to violence when Eazy-E announces that the band should choose one of their members to fight later tonight against either a member of Beer Money and the Amazing Red. Both teams go their separate ways and talk about who should wrestle later. Summer rating of 55, okay. Hulk Hogan is excited ahead of the My Bloody Valentine pay-per-view in 3 days, but the Hulkster wants the Total Nonstop tour to be worldwide, dude. That will be the case when in 3 weeks' time, TNA takes its superstars to the United Kingdom for an event. Hogan plans to reveal more about the UK show later, but speaking of the British, Hogan demands British Invasion come out. The Immortal One feels that if Motor City Machine Guns and Generation Me are fighting for the right to a TNA World Tag Team title shot on Sunday, then it's only fair that the TNA World Tag Team Champions also compete in action ahead of My Bloody Valentine and eventually ahead of the pay-per-view in their home country. This will be a non-tag team title match, of course, as Hogan gestures for the opponents to come on down, revealed to be Hernandez and Matt Morgan. Semi rating of 42 here. I was kind of hoping for it to be a bit better because Hulk Hogan's the one cutting the promo and everybody else is just listening, but I'm guessing there's some other little factors that I still yet to discover. Superstar power, maybe, popularity. But nobody else is speaking here apart from Hulk Hogan, so I deliberately set this here because I want Hogan to raise the heat for this, but ironically it's ended up backfiring. So 42 rating, not too impressed with that. British Invasion might not be too happy with having to compete 3 days before a tag team title match, but they needn't have complained, as in a decent match, British Invasion defeated Hernandez and Morgan in 6:23 when Manis pinned Hernandez while using the ropes for leverage. During that, we also had Rob Terry distract Matt Morgan. So yeah, just a victory obviously for British Invasion. Rob Terry continuing to be the factor in their matches. Stemming rating of 54 here is not too bad, I suppose. The television champion shakes his head backstage as the greatest man in television screams, "Are you kidding me? Mick Foley!" Flair having seen the interaction between EY and Mick Foley earlier. Wolf tells Flair this is great. It is an opportunity to embarrass not only EY in a Flair and Wolf specialty match, but also the hardcore legend Mick Foley at the same time. Flair, still hung up on his history with Foley, isn't letting this go. He demands Wolf retain at My Bloody Valentine, because if Wolf loses, then Flair will leave Desmond, but not before putting the figure 4 leg lock on the Wolfman too. Desmond Wolf nods his head as the Nature Boy walks off. Semi rating of 68 here, that's good, that's better stuff. Heat's increasing that storyline too, nice one. Team 3D come down with Bobby Lashley to the ring. Brother Devil and Brother Way talk about the tagline "All is fair in love and war" for this pay-per-view. And whilst Team 3D will be teaming with Lashley in their war against the new stable crystallised, they'll be loving the idea of victory following the outcome of the 6-man tag team match at My Bloody Valentine. Kristal comes down with her new group and suggests, why don't we give the fans a taste of what to expect in 3 days? A singles match right now, involving Lashley, obviously, and one of my guys. Let's see. Lashley, meanwhile, agrees to the impromptu match, and Kristal chooses Giant Bernard as Lashley's opponent. Semi rating of 54. I suppose that's not too bad. Considering the storyline has gained heat as well, I suppose I shouldn't complain too much. Even with the remaining members of Crystallised, as well as Team 3D at ringside, this match surprisingly goes off without interference or distraction. Probably welcome respite for the boss, as in an extremely short match, Bobby Lashley defeated Giant Bernard in 5:13 by pinfall with a spear. Semi rating of 55 here is not too bad, I suppose. Kurt Angle makes his way down to the ring, hyping up his upcoming Monsters Ball match with Samoa Joe this Sunday. The Olympic gold medalist refuses to be caged like an animal for 24 hours before the match, because any time Angle doesn't have his hands on Samoa Joe feels like torture enough. Samoa Joe stands at the top of the ramp and agrees with Kurt Angle. Any chance the Samoan submission machine doesn't have Angle's blood in Joe's hand is also torture. It might look like a preview of what to expect at My Bloody Valentine is going to happen any second as Joe comes down to the ring. But the two are interrupted and forcibly separated by the monster Abyss, the special enforcer, in that match. Abyss gets in the faces of both Joe and Angle to make sure no violence ensues and no blood is being shed. Both Angle and Joe consider turning their thoughts to Abyss instead, but the monster's intimidation will suggest Angle and Joe are both better walking away and waiting until Sunday. Semi rating of 69 here is Not too bad. I suppose it's nice, maybe. Backstage, Motor City Machine Guns and Generation Me continues to trade playful jokes. Max suggests to Alex Shelley that the young, handsome team of Generation Me is going to win later on tonight. Sabin laughs, saying there's nothing worse than a new up-and-coming tag team. They're thinking that they're all that and that they're going to change the world, so to speak. Jeremy points in the irony at Chris, asking if Sabin is talking about Generation Me in this sense, or they're actually talking about themselves, the Motor City Machine Guns. Chris Sabin says we'll see, as both teams walk in opposite directions. Semi-rating of 41 here. I mean, even though the Generation Me and not the Young Bucks here, they're only a couple of years into their career, I don't think they're that bad as promo guys. Maybe just because I'm being given the chance to talk, but I think the four guys here are definitely capable of getting better than a 41, but maybe I'm thinking too much in 2026 rather than 2010, perhaps. Surprisingly, no band members to accompany Waltman in his match against Storm. The Cowboy duly obliged him by also coming down to the ring on his own. Of course, it had to be a setup to lure James Storm into a false sense of security, as in a decent match, Sean Waltman defeated James Storm in 7:06 by pinfall with a sit-out facebuster, following interference from Scott Hall. Semi-rating of 56 here, okay. The interruption from Scott Hall sees the rest of the superstars involved in this feud come down. Robert Roode to even the odds, followed by Kevin Nash and then eventually the Amazing Red, cheered on by Don West. A brawl happens in the middle of the ring until the Immortal One's theme is played. Hulk Hogan telling all 6 superstars that they will all be involved in singles matches against each other at My Bloody Valentine. James Storm will get his chance to exact revenge on Scott Hall due to his interruption earlier, which will leave Robert Roode to face Kevin Nash, because the Amazing Red will be putting his X Division title on the line when he takes on Sean Waltman. Again, segment rating of 52, the idea of Hogan making the announcements because he's such a good promo guy is to obviously raise the heat here, and ironically it's just had the opposite effect. Bizarre. Kurt Angle is walking backstage when he meets up with Taz and Tommy Dreamer. Dreamer warns Angle about the violent nature of Samoa Joe, whilst Taz talks about how he coaches Samoa Submission Machine to become unstoppable. The Olympic gold medalist walks off, but not before reminding Taz and Tommy that when Angle debuted in TNA over 3 years ago, Samoa Joe was unstoppable then, until he lost to Kurt Angle in Angle's first match. Something else I forgot to mention as well, that Samoa Joe was unstoppable and he was still undefeated, at least one-on-one, when it came to wrestling Kurt Angle. And then Kurt Angle debuted in the first match, Angle beat Joe. Semi-rating of 69? Nice, I suppose. Mr. Anderson isn't too happy with the closing of last week's Impact when he was jumped by Jeff Hardy. The charismatic Enigma tells the Total Nonstop asshole that Anderson got what he deserved, following the manner in which Anderson defeated Hardy last week. But even though Anderson won, Jeff tells Anderson that they have to put their differences aside just for one night, tonight, if they're to be involved in the 4-way match for the TNA World Championship this Sunday. If the two can coexist, then they can then pick up from last week's match in the 4-way title match in 3 days' time. Anderson smiles at Hardy, but the smile soon disappears, the asshole telling the Enigma he's watching him closely. Semi-rating of 68, not too bad. Knowing that British Invasion have already competed in a match tonight, and whilst Magnus and Doug Williams rest up by watching the following match backstage, the Young Bucks Max and Jeremy, as well as the Motor City Machine Guns Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, go at it like there's no tomorrow, let alone Sunday. The Guns are still a very young tag team here, but it's their experience as a tag team over Generation Me that's going to see them through in this match, as, in a decent match, Motor City Machine Guns defeated Generation Me in 8:18 when Chris Sabin pinned Jeremy Buck with a cradle shock. Semi-rated of 61 here, I think that's pretty good. See, these guys are really capable of going at it. I mean, even in 2010, long before Young Bucks formed their team, their stable with Kenny Omega in 2016, The Elite. This is maybe before that, to be honest, but these guys were certainly capable of putting on good matches, more so in 2010 when I think they should have been pushed better by TNA. So semi-rated of 61, I'm pleased with that, and I know that's what they're capable of doing. Jeff Jarrett, Sting and Mick Foley all talk about the chance once again to become TNA World Champion. Double J believes it's in their hands to win tonight's 6-man tag team match, especially as Jeff Hardy and Mr. Anderson can't even get on the same page. Scott Steiner interrupts the three, telling them that they've forgotten about Big Papa Pump is also involved in tonight's main event. He's kicked all 3 of his opponents' asses before, and tonight will be the same again. Perhaps Jarrett, Sting and Foley shouldn't focus on what's going on with Hardy and Anderson in the match later tonight, but rather focus on the big booty daddy himself. Semi-rating of 71, that's good. Hulk Hogan is walking backstage when he bumps into the TNA World Champion AJ Styles. The Phenomenal One tells the Hulkster that he may have put professional wrestling on the map, but TNA is the house that AJ Styles built, and he's not going to let anyone tear his house down, not even Hulk Hogan. Hogan isn't too pleased at the accusation and the insinuation from the Phenomenal One. Semi rating of 75, very nice. So the main event, a 6-man tag team match. The winners all getting a chance to become the TNA World Champion in a 4-way. And yes, the tension is palpable between Jeff Hardy and Mr. Anderson during the match. Anderson arguing with Hardy, even with Hardy the legal man and on the offense. Their arguments almost costing themselves the match when Foley brings out a sock and has the mandible claw on Scott Steiner. Both see just in time to break up the submission as Eric Young watches from backstage. Scott tags in Jeff, about to hit a high move until Jeff is slapped in the back by Anderson, making himself the legal man. Both are now in the ring, at the corner. The referee tries to break up what looks like a collar and elbow title from Hardy and Anderson. Foley wonders what's going on, when from behind the hardcore legend comes in, the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and hits a low-blown Foley. Foley is down, Flair leaves the ring, Sting and Double J leave the apron and argue with the Nature Boy. Anderson pushes Hardy and the referee out of the way, picks up Mick Foley, and hits the mic check. Anderson going for the cover. 1, 2, 3. Anderson has done it. He's won this match. And it's even a victory for Jeff Hardy and Scott Steiner, as the three will go on to face AJ Styles for the TNA World title in 3 days' time. Sting and Jeff Jarrett continue to argue with Flair as they walk up the ramp. Anderson celebrates like he's won this match all by himself. So yeah, in about that great heat and good wrestling, Scott Steiner, Mr. Anderson and Jeff Hardy defeated Mick Foley, Jeff Jarrett and Sting in 11:06 when Mr. Anderson pinned Mick Foley with a mic check following interference from Ric Flair. Semi-rated 72 to end the final match main event. Yeah, sir, that's pretty good. Mr. Anderson grabs the mic and declares himself the true winner and the man that's going to lead My Bloody Valentine as the new TNA World Champion. But before Anderson can say his name, so rather I can imagine Mr. Anderson grabbing the mic from the announcer, coming in the middle of the ring, says, "The winner of the match, the only man that matters, and the man that will leave TNA, My Bloody Valentine, has the new world champion, Mr." But he's cut off by Jeff Hardy, as Jeff Hardy snatches the mic. A war of words is exchanged, followed by Anderson, Hardy, and then eventually Scott Steiner, until AJ Styles' music hits, and the Phenomenal One stands at the top of the stage, holding his TNA World Championship in the air. Impact comes to a close as the three challengers realise that their teamwork is done, and it's every man for himself in the 4-way match for the TNA World Championship this Sunday at My Bloody Valentine. So final segment rating for the show is a 71. I think that's a decent enough segment to end up on. However, what is the final score of the show? Well, bet you didn't expect this episode coming. That makes 2 of us, or 3 of us, or maybe just me. I certainly didn't see this coming, I can tell you that much. But yes, I found the TNA mod, the 2010 mod, in the TEW9 database. I didn't lose the save file, I just didn't realise that my TEW9 demo folder was in my TEW9 folder, which is in the GDS folder, if that makes sense. So you go to the GDS folder and it brings up the full game, TEW9 with its files and application. But in order to get to the TEW9 demo, I had to click a folder called TEW9, which when clicked displays all the files and the application for the TEW9 demo, which is what I was using when originally playing this mod, and therefore where the 2010 mod was located. So anyway, it's all back together, I can continue with this save. So tonight's show, overall rating of 71 is, yeah, I think that's decent. As long as popularity is going up in all regions, and in the main region of South East, which I think at the moment my popularity is 64, that's good. So I need to keep the overall show ratings at this kind of scores for the time being. So yeah, 71, encouraging. I just hope this episode doesn't seem too disjointing from when I booked the previous episode of Impact. That episode was published, I think, about this time last year, because I did reminiscing on the episode of Hulk Hogan, because he'd just passed away at that point. Yeah, it was a year ago. That being said, I think this show was okay as a go-home episode before the next episode, which will be the My Bloody Valentine pay-per-view. I'm not as bothered with being as forthcoming with the episodes in this story, as I'm going to be doing that for the Raven storyline with TEW9. However, I did mention earlier in the night about the storytelling match with AJ and Homicide. One thing I do want to do, and I do want to mention, is the product of TNA in 2010 here. I'm going to make a change here, and I think that this change will be impactful, for want of a better word. So I'm going to the editor of this game, and I'm going to change the product, which is currently operating as a classic sports entertainment product. And I don't feel that's fitting for TNA this time, so I'm going to be changing it to the Ruthless Aggression product, i.e. the products that I'm currently using with Raven in TEW9. Mostly because I feel at this point in 2010, WWE themselves are now a few years into being a more family-friendly PG-rated product. TNA promoting themselves as the alternative at this time. They could pick up where WWE now refuse to go. A little more blood, guts and cutting-edge storylines. Now, okay, that might not be the case with what followed with TNA under Hogan perhaps, but I'm going to pretend here, at least at this moment in time, this is what they're going to do. And also it may have something to do with how fans of a classic sports entertainment product perceive hardcore matches, i.e. they don't appreciate hardcore style matches. I think we can say that I don't think there's ever been a time in TNA where that's been the case. TNA fans have always and always will appreciate the hardcore product at times. So it'll be interesting to see what score I get coming out of the next episode of the pay-per-view itself. So I'm going to go into the pay-per-view card now. Again, subject to change, but this is the match listings for My Bloody Valentine. So the war of words and constant distractions and interruptions have meant that, with 3 new matches added to the card, James Storm will look to avenge his defeat to Sean Waltman when he takes on Scott Hall, leaving Hall's partner Nash to take on the other member of Beer Money, Robert Roode. And a third member of the band, Sean Waltman, will have his chance to leave the arena as the next X Division champion when he takes on the Amazing Red for the gold. Submissions match for the TNA Television Championship. The champion Desmond Wolfe, accompanied by the Nature Boy Ric Flair, taking on the man he beat and who Ric Flair turned on to win the gold, Eric Young. The submission match will surely benefit Desmond Wolfe here, but with EY's talk with Foley earlier and Flair's interruption in the main event, costing the hardcore legend a chance at the TNA World title, could we see Mick Foley in the corner of Eric Young at My Bloody Valentine? And has EY enough time to sharpen his submission skills for this Sunday? 6-man tag team match has crystallised. Christopher Daniels, Giant Bernard and Carl Anderson, led by the leader of the group Kristal, take on Kristal's soon-to-be ex-husband Bobby Lashley, along with Brother Devon and Brother Ray. Perhaps a small semblance of revenge after Lashley beat Giant Bernard tonight, but it will be interesting to see if the boss is still in the right frame of mind when the 6 meet at the arena in Philadelphia. We now know that My Bloody Valentine, the TNA World Tag Team titles, will be defended by British Invasion, and their opponents will be the Motor City Machine Guns. Shelley and Sabian were victorious earlier in their friendly feud with Generation Me, and they had the chance on Sunday to dethrone Magnus and Williams, but they will have to watch out for Big Rob Terry in the corner of British Invasion, more so after British Invasion's tag team victory earlier tonight. TNA Knockouts title, Tara the champion, Awesome Kong the challenger. The Monster Knockout is a serious threat to Tara's title reign, but one has to wonder about the mind games of Velvet Sky, who, for some reason, has taken a close interest to, as well as ally herself with Awesome Kong. The Knockouts champion in serious jeopardy when Tara defends their title in 3 days' time. Monsters Ball match, Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle. With the main event of Mafia now finished, the Samoa submission machine says it's time to continue his nation of violence, and more so against the one man that Joe never confronted, the leader of the main event Mafia, Kurt Angle. The violence was felt after the bloody attack on the Olympic gold medalist by Joe following the conclusion to the Genesis pay-per-view. But Angle proved the wrestling machine he is, coming back at Impact 2 weeks ago, attempting to stack Samoa Joe's ankle. Hogan no doubt fears the animosity brewing here, and to make sure it's all left in the ring, the Immortal One has made this match a Monsters Ball match. And who better to oversee the chaos and destruction that will ensue in this match than the appointed special enforcer, Abyss. And finally, the main event for the TNA World Championship. AJ Styles, his list of title defences gets longer and more distinguished, but this will be his toughest challenge yet, having to face off against 3 of the superstars at the same time: Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner, the charismatic enigma Jeff Hardy, and the arsehole himself, Mr. Anderson. One fall to a finish in this 4-way match. Styles doesn't even have to be pinned nor submitted to lose the TNA World title. He will have to be more than phenomenal on Valentine's Day in the main event. So folks, that's all I have for updates at the moment. Hope you're all well and continuing to hydrate during this heatwave, at least here in the UK. Anywhere else, America, have you been coping with this weather? Has it been bad there? Hope you're well too. Everyone stay healthy, drink water. But anyway, I will see you next in this TNA Chain storyline, which will be My Bloody Valentine, the pay-per-view itself. And as ever, thank you so much for watching.